Well, welcome back to the DCL Podcast, your podcast to cruise a little smarter. And for those watching live, as you can see, I am not alone. I am joined by one of our co-hosts, Steve. Steve, how are we today?
Not too bad. We were talking a little bit earlier. I haven't had too much sleep last night, so we'll see if I can stumble through this with you.
Yes. Well, luckily, this should be a pretty easy one to navigate because we are talking summer 2025 itineraries.
Probably my favorite itinerary release usually, but this one, there's some interesting things, but a lot of the same, I guess, this year.
Yeah, I think some of the things that are new and different we kind of already knew about, but there are some of the things that I would usually consider to be less interesting, I think have some more interesting things going on this time.
I would agree with that because our family, we're always looking to Europe. And so I don't really pay attention so much to what's going on in the Caribbean and the Bahamas. And I think for those of you traveling to Walt Disney World or Florida and wanting to do a sailing like that, there are a lot of different options, I think, this summer, which are in 2025 that I think people are going to be excited about.
For sure. Well, how do we want to dive into this?
Well, first of all, where's Christy? I think we should touch on that because I think she's off drinking champagne and eating escargot somewhere.
I believe Christy is living her best life in Amsterdam. She is there for a river cruise seminar. I know it involves various panels with different river cruise ships and all of that, and it sounds awesome. You can follow her at Pack Your Pixie Dust on Instagram. She's got all sorts of posts of the shenanigans that they are getting her into.
I'm looking forward to her feedback on this because we still haven't done a river cruise. That's still a bucket list for us, and so I'm curious to see. She's seen some other things beyond Alma Waterways, which is what Adventures by Disney uses. So I'm curious to see what she has to report when she gets back from that.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to getting a little bit of a rundown from her on the podcast. But turning back towards Disney Cruise Line, where do we want to start it, Steve?
Well, why don't I just take the tough one? I'll start with the Wish.
Oh, really taking the hard one there. It's fine because I'll make you do the Med because you were way more versed in all of the Mediterranean ports. So yeah, you can have the layup here.
Okay, the layup here is the beautiful Disney Wish, the fan favorite out of Port Canaveral, which, she's busy all the time. I know a lot of people, friends of ours, have gone down there recently and sailed on it and just came back having a great time on the Wish. But nothing different from her for the most part. She's still going to continue to do 3 and 4 night sailings out of Port Canaveral, featuring stops at Nassau and Castaway Cay. She does have one-off sailing, which is August 1st. It's a 3-night sailing, and instead of stopping at Nassau, you get a day at sea and a day at Castaway. The one thing you don't get with the Wish, Lighthouse Point.
No, and that is a trend for both of the new ships. So I'll go ahead and jump right into the Treasure here. I actually think these two ships, being the newest and most interesting, have the least interesting itineraries. The Treasure is taking over the... Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, but I mean, right now, I think the main reason why people are going on the ships is to go see the ship more so.
Oh, absolutely. And we'll circle back around to that. But okay. Yeah, so the Treasure is still taking over the Fantasy's old sailings of the 7-night Eastern and Western Caribbeans. Also does not have any lighthouse points. Also noted, while we had that one-off on the Wish, none of these cruises have the little asterisks where they sneak the double dip or something in there. They're all just the straight standard itineraries for both the Wish and the Treasure. Nothing super crazy to report there.
No stops in. Sometimes they get that 7 nights. They'll stop when they do the Eastern. Sometimes they stop in Puerto Rico instead of St. Thomas. So nothing even like that on the Treasure.
No, they are the most two cut and dry ships I think that we have on this itinerary.
Did you have anything else you want to talk about with the Treasure? Or?
No, not really.
Okay. Let's move. What do you want to do? You want to do the Dream or you want to do the Wonder or the Magic? Should we stay in the Caribbean, I guess?
Yeah, let's finish up these Caribbean ships.
All right, you want to do the dream, or you want to do the magic? I'll let you.
I want to do the magic.
Okay, so I'll do the dream then. So the dream will be back in Fort Lauderdale after she's going to Europe this summer. And then we'll talk about this on the fantasy too. But one of the big things for the dream coming up is she's got a pretty extensive dry dock after the end of the summer sailing this year, which is going to be, sorry, and Christy's going to kill me because I'm moving pages around here. But the dream finishes up in Europe September 15th. And then she will be in dry dock until October 20th. And then heading back to Fort Lauderdale. Well, she's going to be sailing out of Fort Lauderdale through the winter of 2024. Excited to see what they're going to, because that's a pretty long dry dock. So I can't wait to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, hopefully we see some cool changes on there. I don't know. I like the dream, the fantasy, but I think Enchanted Garden, as much as I love that restaurant, is probably going to go. I think the area and layout of that restaurant is just screaming for some sort of show aspect.
Yeah, it's got a big space when you think about it. It's got that fountain in the middle, so there is space to put even like a stage there or some sort of, kind of really rethink that space. Plus, it used to be at one point they used to do a buffet there, so they actually have a buffet line in the back part of the restaurant as well. So there's a lot of space in that restaurant that's not utilized right now. So it'll be interesting what they come up with.
Yeah, that is my prediction. What's interesting, though, is that we'll see that change on the dream, and then it'll be like, oh, well, now we know what's going to happen on the fantasy, even if it's like a different theme or style. Sorry, I don't know why they decided to come and mow my lawn at 6:30 in the evening, but that is what's happening right outside my window right now.
I love it. Well, commerce continues on, commerce continues on. People have to make money. To that point, one other thing, a couple other things that they really need after being on the fantasy at Christmas time, they're like the plug situation in the rooms is pretty outdated. They need some USB-Cs, whatever they're going to do with that. I think there's like on one side, there's a plug and the other side there wasn't. And of course, I'm always on the side where there is no plug. My wife gets the plug. So trying to plug your phone in at night is a little bit tough. So yeah, a lot of updates for the dream, and we'll talk about the fantasy as well. But let's go back to 2025. The dream will continue out of Fort Lauderdale. She's going to be sailing a 5-night Western Caribbean sailings to Cozumel, featuring stops in Cozumel, Castaway Cay, and 2 days at sea. Then she does a bunch of 3 and 4 night Bahamian sailings with stops at Nassau, Lighthouse Point, and the 4 days have a day at sea. So the 3 days you'll be stopping in Nassau at Lighthouse Point, and then back the 4 days you'll also have a day at sea in that in that period. Then she also has several 4 and 5 night sailings with stops at both Castaway and Lighthouse Point. So if you want to go to both of them, and this is where I think it kind of gets exciting if you're thinking about doing a cruise down out of Florida, down to the Caribbean, or the Bahamas, this in the summer of 2025, where you've got a lot of different options. If you want to get on a ship that stops at both Castaway and Lighthouse Point, the dream is going to do it. And we'll touch on the magic here too, because I think she does it as well. She does have one 5-night sailing too, or excuse me, I'm kind of confusing that. Okay, so mostly 3 and 4 day Bahamian sailings with stops at Lighthouse Point. The 4 days features a day at sea. Then she also has 4 and 5 night sailings with stops at Castaway, Lighthouse Point, and the 5-night sailing has a day at sea as well. There is one gap in her schedule though, August 2nd through the 7th. And probably chances are that's going to be a DVC member cruise. I couldn't find one in Europe this year. I couldn't find a gap there, but that's the one gap that I did find in the sailings of summer of 2025. So probably look for a DVC member cruise sailing then.
Oh, interesting. I was trying to find if there were any gaps and I did not see any. But yes, I think these 5-night sailings, and as we said, the Magic will have a very similar option. These are like highlight sailings. Like if you had to say like, hey, I just want to sail something out of Florida, what would you suggest? I think these 5 nights are perfect. 5-night is like the perfect length where like it really feels like a longer, relaxing cruise without having to do the like, all right, get in the room, unpack and pack up the next day type of situation. And all the 5-night sailings out of Florida do Lighthouse and Castaway, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I love about it too is like, I mean, being on the West Coast, I don't really want to come out there for a 3 or 4 day sailing personally anymore, going all the way across the country. But when you combine that with either stops at Universal, at Walt Disney World, or maybe going over to the beach and stuff like that, I think it's cool that they have so many different options for you, depending upon what your time frame is and what your budget is, to be able to, spend some time in the parks and then jump on the cruise ship and see the new islands too. So I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, my only last point about the Dream is it is the only ship in the summer sailing out of Fort Lauderdale.
Good point there. Have you guys heard very much about Fort Lauderdale yet?
Yeah, we had some friends who just sailed out of there maybe 2 months ago, and they said it was a breeze. Easy awesome to get to, parking and everything was easy.
And I love the fact that they've taken over and built out the space, with the Mickey ears you get to walk through and everything else to board the ship. So it's not just a generic port anymore.
Yeah, Nova says Epic Universe and a 5-night would be pretty great. I agree. That would be a swell vacation.
Aaron also says it's interesting that the Fantasy is going over to Europe and the Dream is staying here next summer. I think that has to do really with the dry dock in a lot of ways, as far as the dry dock schedule, using the Fantasy over there. Plus, when we get to it, I just think the theming of the Fantasy fits Europe too, between the two ships. So I love the Europa adult section, and that just adds to being over in Europe, I think.
I cannot attest to the Fantasy's theming because I have not been on it yet, but that will change here in just a couple months.
I can't wait to hear what you think.
I'm so excited. It seems like it's universally almost everyone's favorite ship. But why don't we take it to the oldest ship, and probably the one I'm actually most excited to talk about. It has really one cool, interesting sailing, but it's also making its return to Port Canaveral, which is kind of interesting. It's going to be the third ship in the Port Canaveral rotation. The highlight cruise, I think, is that 10-night Eastern Caribbean on July 25th out of Port Canaveral. And you are getting Virgin Islands, St. Kitts, Antigua, Puerto Rico, Lighthouse Point, and Castaway with 3 days at sea.
Count them. 1, 2, 3 days at sea. How beautiful is that?
That just looks like an awesome cruise. I would love to be able to do one like that, 10 days, cool ports. But then otherwise, after that, you're following kind of a more standard rotation. A lot of regular 4 nights that go to Nassau, Castaway, Day at Sea. It does have a 4-night on August 4th that does Lighthouse and Castaway. And then again, those 5-night sailings where you go Nassau, Lighthouse, Castaway Key, and Day at Sea, I think are just such cool sailings.
Yeah, I agree totally with that. I mean, that, and you're also on a smaller ship going to Lighthouse Point and Castaway Key, so you've got less people to compete with in some of the spaces. I have no idea how that's going to work as far as Lighthouse Point. I'm sure they probably, Castaway doesn't really get that busy, does it? And maybe in a few spaces, but I bet you the crowd management is going to be pretty good on Lighthouse Point.
I think you are right, though. I think you can definitely at this point tell the difference between a full Magic class ship and a full Dream or Triton class ship.
Yeah.
That is definitely a huge perk. And I love the Magic. I think the Magic is so great to be able to spend that many days at sea and that much time on it. Well, you've spent that much time on it many a times.
Yeah, well, I think the most we did was 9 nights, or the most we done is 9 nights when we did Greek sailing on the Magic. And there's just something about that. It just keeps going and going, and you're just so busy doing stuff that you never get bored whatsoever.
But yeah, that is the Magic. Like I said, though, there's 5 nights. If you're looking for something sweet and easy, or you're looking for your first Disney cruise, I think those 5 nights on the Magic or the Dream are it.
Yeah, they do have one off August 4th, which is just a 4-night.
Yeah, that's the Lighthouse and Castaway.
Lighthouse and Castaway. Yeah, that would be a pretty cool one to be on too. Just a total go do the parks and then do your beach vacation on the Magic.
Absolutely. Well, go ahead.
was gonna say, do you want to double or tag team on the Wonder here, and then
I was about to say the same thing.
All right. Well, I'll start it off here just a little bit, and then I think we can touch on some different things, because I know that you and I and Katie all did Nonawake did sailings up to Alaska last year with stops at Icy Strait Point. So I think we could maybe touch on that a little bit for people. But the Wonder is going to transition May 8th from San Diego to Vancouver. She's going to be in San Diego doing some Mexican Riviera sailings up until May 8th. And then she does a 4-night cruise in San Diego up to Vancouver. If you're thinking about the sailing, I'm just going to throw out two different things. And I hate to be negative about any type of sailing whatsoever. I mean, it'd be fun to be on the Wonder for 4 nights. There's no stops. I think it would be super cool if they would at least thrown in a San Francisco stop, or maybe Victoria, for people. I know Amber has been on this sailing. She did it as a DVC member cruise. And this time of year, just be wary. Your results may vary, but it can be kind of cold going up, and it can be pretty wavy too. So if you're somebody who has motion sickness and you don't really want to be on a cold cruise, maybe think twice about this one. I just wish they would have thrown a stop in San Francisco or something like that to make it a little bit more enjoyable. But once she gets up to Vancouver, she's going to be doing basically just the typical 7-night sailings.
Yeah. I do have a question. Is the glacier viewing at all, is the, I don't even know how to pronounce that, the Stikine ice cap, is that the usual?
So as best as I can tell, it is. That's where they went last year. So if anybody was on the Wonder last year, it's up Endicott Arm. It's just south of Juneau. The thing I couldn't tell, because I was looking at some different videos and stuff, is I think she gets all the way up to the end of Endicott Arm where they can see the glacier. But they also do offer the small ship like you and I did off of the Norwegian Bliss to get up even closer to the glacier. But I do believe that the Wonder gets all the way up to the glacier to be able to see it. So if you don't do the small one or the small ship, you're going to be able to see it. Unlike the Norwegian Bliss, which didn't
got stuck. Yes, but we do have some of your more typical options. You have your 5-night, which kind of complements that 8-night to make the even it back around to those 7 nights, which is going to be kind of the bread and butter of the Alaskan sailings. And then most of these Alaskan sailings have a pretty similar port stops. The 7 nights have your glacier viewing, Skagway, Juneau, Ketchikan, 2 days at sea. The 8 nights also include stops in Sitka. But we do have 2 interesting stops here on the 7 nights with Icy Strait Point stops, which is a little bit different if you've never been there. That is the Norwegian built out port. It's kind of like I would call it a ski resort during the summer, where they just like throw random attractions in there to get you to keep coming there in the summer when there's no snow. That is the best way I think I can describe it. I mean, it is cool, but it is not necessarily the most like authentic Alaskan experience, I would say.
No, so they built it around a cannery, basically. So you can do a little bit of a cannery tour and see some of the history there, but it's not like Skagway, where there's an actual gold rush town where miners were there and built the town up back in the day when they were looking for gold. I would say the one, it's sort of like Alaska Disneyland, because you can go zip lining on like one of the fastest, like tallest zip lines or something like that. What else do they got there? They've got some different they've
got ropes course. Of course, they have the gondolas. They have different hiking trails. However, I think we both had the same experience where most of them were closed due to bear activity.
Right. I would the one thing I would say that I really enjoyed about Icy Strait Point, and we were talking about with our friends that we went just a couple of days ago, was when we got up, when we were having breakfast, you could look out over the bay area that where the ship is parked, and you could see whales jumping in the distance. And we did a whale watching tour like you guys did, right? Did you guys do a whale watching tour there?
Not there. No, okay. We did a kind of variety nature tour, but it did turn into like a whale watching tour. But yes, I think that is a great place for it though.
Right. I mean, it was a quick boat ride out. When we were there, the water was flat. It was just amazing. And it just got some really incredible videos and photos of the whales. So I think that is one of the highlights to me of Icy Strait Point over Skagway per se. I think there's probably more things to do in Skagway if you want to go ride the train. There's like ATV riding that you can do. There's like a bike ride now that they do. There are several hikes you can do. There may be, I don't want to say there's more. I don't know how to describe the two, but I think like Skagway is more authentic, real Alaska, and Icy Strait Point is kind of a little bit more Disneylandish Alaska beyond the whales.
Yeah, it's kind of a curated experience.
That's a better way of putting it.
But yeah, it was cool. But if I had to pick between going back there or going to Skagway, I'd go Skagway 100%.
So those are just our thoughts. But it's you will have a good time at Icy Strait Point if that's the cruise that works out best for you.
Oh, absolutely. And it is like a beautiful area. As Steve said, water is like perfectly flat in there. There's usually another ship in port with you there. It is a cool area, but if you had to pick between that and Skagway, I would still go Skagway. But we do have one more kind of different sailing in here. What is that? Last sailing. Oh, okay. Never mind. Do they... Right, the 9-night is new, or is it the 8-night that's new? Or returning?
I think they're both returning. They've run the 5-night, so the 5-night you just go to Ketchikan and then you get to see the glacier plus a couple days at sea. The 9-night has, I think that's been around year in and year out. The cool thing about that is you get to stop at Sitka and Victoria, and I think you get a real day in Victoria, unlike us where it was like a night stop.
It's like 4 hours.
Yeah. What did you think of Sitka? I think Sitka's a really cool place.
I really liked Sitka. We did some really cool stuff there. I did not really get to experience the town though, and I kind of wish I had, because they like kind of close it down when the ships are in port and becomes just like a walking town, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's a lot to do in Sitka where we kayaked. There is a raptor center where they like eagles.
We went there.
Yeah. So that's kind of a cool setting. There's a free park that you can walk through. I think you go through the park to get to the Raptor Center, where they have totem poles, and there's a whole history of the different totem poles that were produced by the tribes there.
Yeah, that's also where they have Fortress of the Bears. You can like guarantee, they're all rescues, but it is guaranteed that you can see bears, which is pretty cool. So
that to me is a huge highlight of doing that 9-night Alaska sailing, is stopping in Sitka. And then Victoria too that's a really, there's a lot of different things you can do there. From, you guys did the pub tour, right? Or the brewery tour?
Yeah, it was like it was a brewery and a distillery in one.
Okay.
They basically just drove you out to this place and you took the tour and then you drank for a while, because that was all the time you really had to, but it was cool. It was a really cool distillery too.
Also, the movie Proposal was based from there, but I understand almost nothing was in Sitka. Huh, well, there you go. It's probably all.
Yep, that is true. Everyone tells you about that when you're there.
Okay.
It's like their one claim to fame that they love to tell you about.
But I'm going to put a plug in. That was our first cruise, Alaska. We loved it. That was our first Disney cruise with the kids and everything. The kids were small. This may not be like up your bucket list. Everybody kind of thinks of the Caribbean or someplace like that to start off with. But if you're an adventurous family and you really want to go to Alaska and this fits in your budget and your time frame, you can't go wrong with doing these cruises. I've never heard anybody come back from Alaska and say, "Wow, I wish I hadn't gone there." It's just so different from the ships being so close to the land when you get to the Southeast Passage, and everything else it's just amazing.
Oh, it is absolutely amazing. I will definitely be sailing Alaska again in the near future. We can't wait to be able to go back.
Dennis says Alaska is the best. I want to do it again someday. Take us with you, Dennis. Take us with you.
Let's all go. We are all game.
Anything else about the Wonder Lake?
I don't think so. I think that takes us into really the bulk here, the fantasy, holding up this itinerary with a whole page on the PDF.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Okay, the Great White Whale, the Disney fantasy. Who knew she was the Great White Whale, at least for the sprinkles. So.
Last ship, almost there. And then the new one will come out.
And then the new one comes out too. And I got a little teaser. Hopefully this will be something that comes out at the very end. So stick with us. There's how's that for trying to keep people watching us? Like, so keep watching. All right. So the Disney Fantasy is going to Europe. She's going to return to Europe for the first time since she was built. I think it's perfect for the theming with her adult area, Europa section with the tube, Skyline, which obviously is also on the Dream, but the carousel bar, ooh la la, all of it just has a feel to me of Europe. And I think she's just going to be an amazing ship to go on over in Europe in 2025. Unlike our first Norwegian ship, which was built for the Hawaiian Islands, and there we were sailing around Croatia, Turkey, and Greece, and with just Hawaiian theming throughout the ships. I just think that I digress on that one. Sorry. I just think this is going to be a really cool one. So let's jump into it. The Fantasy is going to leave May 4th. She does a 13-night transatlantic with stops in Portugal, the Azores, and Cadiz, Spain. And then she's going to start off out of Barcelona, initially doing 7-night Mediterranean sailings, all kind of the normal ports. We're not going to go through each and every one of the stops, but kind of think of those Mediterranean across, through France and Italy, and then back to Barcelona. Then on May 31st, she transitions over to Civitavecchia, and then she'll do a 7, 9, and 12-night Mediterranean sailings with stops to the Greek Isles. Some different stops here on the 9-night. They'll be stopping in Kusadasi, Turkey, which is, she goes to Turkey twice, which is a really cool stop. It is a World Heritage Site. The site is known as Ephesus. It's just an amazing ruins. And what's really cool about it is when you go, if you decide to do that and go see these ruins, the places where the people lived, like their houses, there's a couple of them you can walk into and it almost looks like you could live there today. Like all the tiles are still there. It's not like Pompeii. Well, obviously Pompeii was hit by a volcano, but it's not like Pompeii where it's just kind of ruins. These are still kind of standing with all the tiles, and they show you how the running water worked into these different places as well. So it's kind of a really cool setting. Plus the food in Turkey is amazing as well. I believe Dennis and Tim are headed there this summer, so look for their reports, plus any Star Wars sightings they may find while they're over in together on their sailing over to the Greek Isles. And then she also has a big 12-night sailing featuring stops in Kusadasi, plus all the rest of the 7-night sailings and the 9-night sailing. And she also stops in Malta and Messina. So any of those interest you, like?
Oh, a Greek Isles is like, I would say probably second or third on my like cruising bucket list. Probably second, I would say.
What's cool about Greece is like the little ports that you stop in are it's not like some of the other ports, like when you go through the Mediterranean where they're what am I looking for? Industrial. So they're just actually the small port where you can get off sort of like Alaska and walk into the towns and some of them. And that I think is kind of a special way to cruise.
Yeah, I mean, we did a Mediterranean cruise also on Norwegian out of Barcelona. And by the way, Barcelona, great port to sail out of. They have a really great port area, really accessible and easy, smooth process. And also just a great city to be able to explore before or after a cruise. Just bouncing back to that real quick. But yeah, I would love to even go back and just do another Mediterranean, but I would really love to go and do a Greek Isles.
I see that in your guys' future at some point. All right. So then, so she does that through July. Then she transitions back on the 24th of July from Barcelona over to Southampton. And here, they're doing it this year and they're doing it again in 2025, where instead of in the past, she'd do like several like Northern European or European capital sailings. She just does 3 and 4 and 5-night sailings out of Southampton with stops in France, Belgium, and Spain, a bunch of different itineraries. Some feature 1, some feature 2 days at sea as well. I think these are really made more for Europeans or people living over in Europe rather than necessarily, like us traveling over there to do a 3-night sailing.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I think the Dream is doing a couple of these this year as well, right? I'd be curious to see how well they're selling, if they're selling out, like if they really are something that, locals are looking for, or if it's, I mean, I guess if they're bringing it back, it has to be doing at least somewhat decent.
I think, and I haven't done enough research into this, but and we'll touch on this, that they are not going to Iceland this year. And from what I've seen, it's because Iceland's kind of restricting how many cruise ships go up there in the summers. They're trying to reduce that type of tourism into Iceland. So I kind of wonder along those lines too. You know, now you can't go to St. Petersburg anymore because of what's going on in Russia. I wonder if also if there's like some kind of pushback on how many cruise ships stop at some of the major ports up in the Baltic too, or if, to your point, these are just selling out like hotcakes, and so they brought them back for that, for people that live in Europe to be able to experience Disney Cruise Line.
Yeah, I will have to look at that then. However, the 8-night Norwegian fjords is my top like bucket list sailing.
Yeah, so we're doing the 7-night this year. The 8-night next year stops. It features an additional stop in Bruges, Belgium, which I would love to do that as well. So I think that would be super cool. All of these leave out of Southampton, but yeah, that Norwegian Fjords cruise is the one big one that they have, and then they transition to two more to kind of end it, which is a Northern European cruise sailing, and I don't have the ports in front of me right now. And then after that, they finished up with the 7-night British Isles.
Yeah, the northern is Bruges, Amsterdam, Gothenburg, and Norway. Chris, yeah, just say I knew you would come up with it.
But yeah, I mean, all of those are really cool sailings, and I don't mean to be negative whatsoever. It's just in the past they've had more things to choose from, and now they've kind of narrowed it down, so you have like kind of 3 different options to choose from beyond the multi-day sailings, the shorter sailings that they have through August.
Yeah, typically there's at least one other like northern style, which is interesting that we only have basically one, because it wasn't there usually like a 9-night.
Yeah, that's usually like the Iceland cruise.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, that was like 9 or 12 nights to go up to Iceland, and then there was usually like one big 9-night that went through the Baltic as well, but that's all kind of been pared back. So, and so then after she finishes up with the British Isles cruise, that's September 8th. The thought is, and what we're hearing is that the Fantasy at that point will go into dry dock. So look for her to. With the Dream this year, she goes into dry dock September 15th, and then the Western Transatlantic is not until October 20th. So that's a long time in dry dock to rebuild or to reimagine the Dream, and probably kind of anticipating the same thing for the Fantasy. She'll probably head into dry dock September 8th, 2025, and look for that Western Transatlantic sometime the beginning of October when those dates come out.
Sounds like plenty of time to add Festival of Foods to both those ships.
That would be awesome. They need that. That would be like a total amazing touch to those ships.
That was a rumor that someone said they were like talking to someone like higher up on the Wish, and they were like, "Yeah, this might be something that you see retrofitted eventually." So that would be another cool. All of our predictions are food related.
Well, just get that barbecue and the tacos. Donald's Tacos on board? That would just change the food up a little bit more and go away from. I mean, you can have the hot dogs and the hamburgers too, but I'd love to see him add that to the ships as well.
Say sometimes I love my hamburger and chicken tenders.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Hey, don't take those fries away from Amber. I know that she won't come back to Disney Cruise Line if they get rid of those fries up there either. So
no, they won't go away.
No, none whatsoever.
But man, did we power through this release here. If you are watching live and you're in the chat, feel free to let us know any of these cruises that are catching your eye as we kind of wrap it up here. Steve, what is the most exciting ship or sailing on here for you?
So I would probably go, if bucket list wise, money is no option. I would love to do that 9-day on the Wonder if we could do that. I would probably pick the 4-day on the Magic potentially was it the Magic where you get to do Lighthouse Point, Castaway Key, a day at sea, and then spend some time with Nova at Epic Universe and exploring that, and with you and Katie as well. And hopefully everybody else. So I think that would be a good sailing as well. Over in Europe, I would love to get down to Kusadasi and see Turkey again. So either the 9 or 12 night sailing on the Fantasy there would be perfect. And I mean, I guess any sailing on the Treasure just to experience her.
Yeah, I feel that. And hopefully we will make some news of that soon, because as of right now, Katie and I have only the hint of a plan to try to make the Treasure happen. Definitely wanted to see that. Excited for the theming and everything on that. Definitely, though, like I said, that and the Wish, least interesting itineraries here. Although I have not done either of the 7-night itineraries that the Treasure does. So that would be new for me either way. Otherwise, again, I think those 5 nights are awesome. I think that those are great options. We always love to look for cruises that we can tack on to the end of our Run Disney weekend. And sometimes those tend to leave on like a Monday night or even that like Sunday. So something like that is always fun. Otherwise, bucket list, like I said, Norwegian fjords, and I would easily go back to Alaska in a heartbeat or go and do the Med.
Definitely. I would like to go back and just do that simple, I don't want to call it simple, but the 7-day Mediterranean cruise as well. That's just a fun cruise for people to see a lot of different places, get a good taste of Italy, France, and also, either stop or end in Barcelona makes a great play or a great cruise as well.
Yeah, those are great cruises. I know we kind of breeze by them because they are the standard Mediterranean, but man, what great cruises. Would again go back and do that.
And it's just like a vibe. Not just in Europe, but there's something about summer to me that is just, everybody's on vacation, everybody's in a good mood. It's just the summer, right? So whether you're going down to the Caribbean, up to Alaska, I just feel like there's like a heightened sense on the ship sometimes that time of year where everybody's just even having, I feel it in the holidays, like at the Christmas cruises we've gone on. And when we go on the summer cruises too, I kind of get that same feeling. So just great times to be on the ships.
Yeah, I would love to do one of those and do the Barcelona shore escape.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because I think that would be a great way to see some of those big tourists, especially, oh my gosh, what is Sagrada?
Yeah, Familia, the cathedral.
Because people that have done that have reported that, like, they basically went in super early before there was anyone. And that just sounds amazing.
I remember seeing Nova's pictures too from when they were in Barcelona last year. Just I'm not necessarily very artistic or architecturally savvy, but being able to see the pictures that she had of Barcelona was just amazing. It makes you really want to go and experience it.
For sure. Well, Steve, anything to add before we wrap it up here?
Well, if you cut this out for the main feed, I think we should talk about March 20th, hopefully.
Oh, yes, we absolutely, because last time I did a release, I forgot to mention all of the booking dates.
Oh, yes.
But I do have that right here. So first off, for those select few of us that are Pearl, I say us, I am not Pearl by any means. I am in the Gold Club. But booking begins Monday, March 18th. And then if you are Platinum or a Golden Oaks Club member, you can begin booking Tuesday, March 19th at 8 a.m. And then our Golds, like me, can begin booking on Wednesday, March 20th. And then Silver Castaway Club members, so anyone who has done at least one previous Disney Cruise Line sailing, as well as Disney Vacation Club members and Adventures Insiders, who are those that have done an Adventures by Disney, can begin booking on Thursday, March 21st at 8 a.m.
And if you get any book with Christy, always a great place to book. She's just an amazing travel agent. Make sure you go to packyourpixielist.com. What she will need is your Castaway Club number so that she can, when she calls in to book that cruise for you based on your Castaway Club status, she'll be able to use that to be able to book that for you. Also, I wish they would fix this, but if you've got an onboard booking credit, unfortunately, you still can't just log on in the morning when it comes alive for you. You still have to call in.
But again, that is why you use a travel planner like Christy or whoever you already use.
Exactly. So I can't think. Is there anything else we're missing on that one, Link? She's probably going, you forgot to tell him this.
I don't think so. I remembered the booking dates at the last minute here. We've talked about all the cruises. I think that is all I have.
Okay. Is this just on the Patreon or is this on the main feed too?
This is live, full live.
Okay, full live. Okay. Yeah, that's all I got too then.
All right. Well, then, thank you all so much for listening or watching. As we said, this will go up on the main feed here in probably the next day or two. But that is, I think, all I have for you guys. Again, if you are rewatching this on any of our platforms, feel free to comment and let us know what you guys plan on booking. And thanks for watching. See you guys.
Bye, everybody.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.